excited. I'm looking forward to playing with Joe when she's better too. I think anybody who you like that much has got to be good, got to be interesting, and totally stoked about that.
Yeah, and that's not too big of a deal, but they, them.
They, excuse me.
That's all right.
I'm gonna keep trying to adjust.
So yeah, in part because it's like I've gone the entire year. Like Thundy, you have been in every single RPG session that I have run this year. Every single one.
Sure.
Which tells you how many that's been.
Right.
I think there were like 2 or 3 at the very beginning of the pandemic, and then a long stretch of nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of coming at this with very low ambitions, relatively speaking.
Sure.
Basically, I am as per my like I've been experiencing a lot of executive dysfunction when it comes to actually getting games together, doing any kind of socializing whatsoever. And my therapist more or less told me, well, you gotta get over that shit.
Right. How do I do it? By doing.
You don't really have to get over not wanting to socialize during a pandemic, honestly.
Yeah. Well, but some amount of interaction.
Yeah.
I am an introverted and reclusive person by nature, but 9 months is a
it's a lot.
Yeah, that pushes it for me. So
too much.
Yeah. So by default, I'll still be recording the sessions, and by default, they'll still go on YouTube. But there's no ambition about big picture stuff or anything like that. It's just so they're accessible for everybody that's playing to be able to go back and watch them again. And hopefully we can use this to get back into the swing of things.
Yeah. Good.
So the first thing that I'd like to do tonight is I have it marked on my little agenda over there, introduce the players. And because we all know each other, I mean, like,
yeah,
pretty well.
When I like chose you guys and Joe as the starting cluster, I was like, well, I'm willing to bet that these players will get on pretty well.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know if I can put up with those two.
I've never gamed with Steven, so I don't know how that's gonna be. Like,
wow.
Weird.
Yeah, it'll be a treat.
Yeah.
Steven, every experience that I've had with gaming with Steven is that the extroverted, charismatic tendencies that he has in real life magnify once the dice are hitting the table.
Even when he tries to not be a charisma bitch, he still is.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
It's hard for me.
Like those charisma-based tendencies that exist in real life just are allowed to flourish with abandon.
Yeah.
So for tonight, when I say introducing the players, it's not so much a matter of like who we are and names, pronouns, and that sort of stuff, as it is basically just a quick. And this doesn't have to be in depth or deeply revealing or anything like that, but like, how's your day been? What are you bringing to the table? What's your world look like right now? Loosely, What mood are we in?
Go ahead, Linda.
This is going to be the high point of my day, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay.
The heater isn't working. The furnace doesn't work. I have not heard a word from the apartment people. So I have a space heater going in the dining area and a space heater in the bathroom. And while I was fixing my dinner, I saw a mouse run out from under the refrigerator across the kitchen.
Oh no.
So yeah.
Oh.
Also drove from here all the way over to the Pawnee and Broadway area to pick up a package that the dude couldn't even find in the system, and found out after I got out back to my car that somebody had already gone and picked it up.
I had.
Ah.
I didn't think.
That's so funny because you said that you drove to Pawnee and Broadway area to pick up a package. I was like, that's so funny. We drove to Pawnee and Broadway to pick up a package.
These things
Yeah,
might be
same happened.
related.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's when they left the note on the door, they didn't say who it was for, where it was from, no information except where it was going to be.
Sure.
Like, all right, I'll go find out what it is.
Oh.
That was actually kind of entertaining, but
Much
So,
more
yeah, it's,
entertaining than a cold house heated by only space heaters and a mouse. Those
I
things.
wonder how much heat the mouse contributes.
funny, the feral kitten came walking in through the front door briefly earlier today. I had gone out to head out to the car, realized I forgot something, came back in to get it, and when I turned around, it had stepped inside and was kind of looking at me like, is it okay for me to be in here? And I was like, I don't think you should come in. And it turned around and scurried back out. And now I'm thinking, maybe I should have let the cat in.
Just for a little bit longer.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it the
2020?
little gray one?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's very cute.
I love
kitty
that
cat.
kitty cat.
Right.
I think it is absolutely gorgeous, and if it were not a completely feral animal, I would probably be willing to adopt it or take it in and try to find a home for it. But
Yeah.
I am absolutely against the idea of anything that might possibly have fleas coming into my apartment.
Sure.
Sure.
Because past history has shown that they think I'm tasty.
That and like I'm also against
Carpet.
that in the apartment because of Joey. My brother is super allergic to cats, so whenever he goes into a place that cats live, just being in there is a big
That would be horrible, yeah.
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. It used to be when I was hosting games here in the library where I live, like the library of my house. One of the we had a miniature medicine cabinet that was just kind of like hung out in the game room, so that when somebody arrived and was like, "Oh, you have cats. I'm allergic to those." Well, here's some pills. It
Yeah.
happened inevitably. So how about Olivia and Thundy? How are things with you guys?
Yeah. How are things with you guys?
Life is great over here.
Oh,
It's absolutely fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah, Olivia's gotten to stay home and work from home this week.
Yeah.
So it's just been a complete blast. And today it's just things are going fantastically, and we're really excited for this weekend. So yeah, we're in a great mood.
awesome.
Olivia's been making delicious cookies the last couple days.
Oh my God.
It's been, yeah. Oh,
Yes.
so good.
Yes. As I recall, baked goods are something of a specialty for Olivia.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, Steven was like, what did you say? You're like, I can't wait to try your snickerdoodle recipe. And I was like, I also can't wait to try my snickerdoodle recipe because I don't have one, but I found a really good one. So
Cool.
That's one of the benefits of having a high baseline skill. The improvising. You have a better than average chance at it.
Definitely.
So on my end, I'm flustered. It's been a fairly rough day.
Aw.
So I'm trying to get into kind of my my GM role, but like in terms of my preparation for tonight, like above and beyond the baseline social anxiety that I've been having about just gaming in general, I'm like 2 days behind on my preparation. Like the last 2 days have kind of sucked. And I'm mostly here as a result of my therapist saying, no, you need to do the thing. Sometimes you get a doctor's note saying, like, excusing you from the activity. I have a doctor's note saying, no, do the activity. Whether you want to or not.
Sure. Definitely.
So, and like I've made some Facebook posts about it, but the health condition of my youngest cat is not as optimistic as the Facebook posts have presented it as.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. And Joe is not with us. They might just be listening. I think that their video their video's off, and I think they are currently muted.
Yeah.
Like everybody has been.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe, if you want to, oh, there we go.
Hello.
Hey, I'm gonna try and keep up. I'm a little bit under the weather, but
Sure. I don't know about everybody, but I definitely relate. I definitely understand how that takes you completely out of things. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah, well, and Joe's been like compared to last year and the year before, the migraines have been drastically improved, but the past day or so has, like, every once in a while it comes back up to bite hardcore, and that's we're kind of
Totally.
in that.
And when they hit hard. So
yeah.
Well, infinite grace for both of you.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So that's basically why I wanted to do, like, I've sometimes commented on how, like, the first portion of a game is often, people settling in and being social. And while preparing for this campaign, I was watching some other videos of people playing, and actually the designer of the game, I think Avery Alder, was running a game for a convention, and she actually started out with, hey, how's your guys' day gone? And she went about it particularly because, the question of, rather than just being the social thing that just naturally happens, it was, well, what kind of energy are we bringing to the table? Right? It's like, oh, wait, yeah, no, that's actually a good thing, like a good way to frame it. Like, that's a valuable piece of information.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the next thing I want to do is go ahead and introduce the system. I have never run this game before, but the way I understand the game to work makes it seem like it's a good candidate for this kind of getting back into it sort of campaign. So you guys have had a chance to look over the PDF with the skins, which are basically this game's classes. And I've kind of introduced the game as this sort of like high school supernatural drama in the vein of like Buffy or Hemlock Grove or heaven forbid, Twilight.
Oh no.
Like, if I remember correctly, the people that are wanting to tease the game designer accuse her of making the Twilight game. But so yeah, I mean, the gist of it is basically that we are going to be playing, the primary characters, you guys, are going to be monsters of some sort, and whichever monstrosity you choose is basically an allegory for the kinds of uncomfortable changes that people go through in their teen years. So they're almost all reflections of some sort of dysfunctional dynamic that people are confronted with as youth. So I'm going to run through some of the basics of the system, and then we will go from there. Okay. I think that the PDF that I sent you included most of the basic rules, like the moves, they're called. In this game, things are fairly streamlined. So I'll get to those in a sec. I'll go ahead and read some material from the book itself. Because the system was kind of approached with a specific idea of what role-playing is. So that idea is, you probably know this already, role-playing is a conversation. You and the other players go back and forth talking about these fictional characters in their fictional circumstances, doing whatever it is that they do. Like any conversation, you take turns, but it's not like taking turns, right? Sometimes you talk over each other, interrupt, build on each other's ideas, monopolize, all of that's fine. All that these rules do is that they mediate that conversation. They kick in when someone says some particular things, and they impose constraints on what everyone should say after, right? So that's basically the underlying philosophy. A lot of this, rather than like in D&D where you're making like strength checks and dexterity checks, for the most part, there are some core things where the rules say, okay, it's time to roll. But otherwise, it's basically whatever the MC, the master of ceremonies, the GM role, kind of, and the players kind of like what they all come to. There are 4 things specifically that are expected of the players. There's this agenda that is kind of like we all need to buy into for the system to work the way it's supposed to. The first one, make every character's life not boring. So keep things interesting. And if you have an opportunity to make things interesting for one of the other players, awesome. The next one is keep the story feral. So the idea here is don't overplan. Right? And I assure you, Linda, I was not singling you out.
No. It's just, I mean, I understand the keep the story feral, and I just find that entertaining since it's just a different spelling of my last name.
Right? That's what I was thinking.
Yes. The next one is say what the rules demand. And basically this boils down to, you can say that my character is keeping this thing a secret, but you have to tell us what the secret is. Right? Or if there is a rule that says you can ask the MC a question, I'm supposed to answer that question, like in as honest of a way as I can. a lot of RPGs are more particular about the difference between player knowledge and character knowledge. That still plays a role here, but we're all honest on the meta level. Okay?
Okay.
Which brings us to the fourth thing, which is say what honesty demands.
Right.
So it's, and a lot of the times that this game is played, there are things that are basically PvP kind of scenarios. And one of the ways that that works is that we're talking about it on a meta level and being honest about what our intentions are.
Sure.
And so we can navigate it on the meta level and then apply that and then shape how the minutia plays out based on what our big picture goals are. And in that way, you can have a character who is intending to do this thing, but we subvert it in a way that everybody is happy with.
Makes sense.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and those last two, I'm going to go ahead and read what the book says. So say what the rules demand. The dice are there on purpose. They aren't for ambiance or as an obstacle to clear before getting to the real story. The rules for moves exist because restraints lead to creativity and chance leads to unexpected twists. You're supposed to fail sometimes. You're supposed to be caught off guard. The rules will interrupt you, and thank goodness that they do. Every time you pick up the dice, you invite a little bit of the wild unknown into your story. You are taking all the plans that have been shaping up in your head, all the expectations you've attached to this moment, and you're putting them at risk. The dice are there on purpose. They help keep the story feral. When you say something that triggers a move, you follow through. When you pick up the dice, you invite them to change everything. Listen to them and say what the rules demand. Say what honesty demands. Cultivating an air of mystery can be fun, but it's important to communicate with your fellow players, even if your character is doing their best to keep secrets. If people don't know what your character wants, what they're hiding, or who they really are, then it becomes hard to actually engage that character. Remember that this is a conversation. Actually saying the things that you're thinking is important if you want people to be able to respond to them. Sometimes that means saying, my character is furious, though he's doing his best to keep it suppressed. And sometimes it means, I think my character died down by the rail yard a year ago, but so far nobody knows she's a ghoul. Everybody thinks that she's just Becky. Trust your fellow players and give them the information they need to tell a good story with you. Communicate what you're feeling and needing too. If a scene is going down that you're not comfortable with, you have every right to say something. While it's important to say what the rules demand, it's also important to make sure we all feel safe and grounded when we play. And on my part, another bit of honesty is demanded of me. When I give you guys information, I'm supposed to be generous and helpful. When somebody's fate is in my hands, I'm supposed to be scrupulous. I'm supposed to resist pettiness, honor the strengths and resources of every character, and don't play any gotchas. At the same time, trust myself to introduce real consequences. Be honest with these consequences and go for the throat when the moment demands it. Let's see. There's a section on framing scenes, and basically what that amounts to is that as the MC, I have de facto control over when and how scenes are framed. But because so much of this gives you guys like a lot of creative control, you are more than welcome to suggest scenes. And I might turn to you and say, what's your character doing right now? And then go from there. Okay. So the basic dice mechanic of this system is you'll notice that I have a 2d6 up here in the corner. Right. So every single roll, every single dice mechanic in this is a 2d6 plus a stat modifier. And if you get a result of 6 or lower, you fail the roll. And there's a list of things that happen as a consequence of that. If you get a 10 or higher, you succeed on the roll, and there's a list of things that happen as a result of that. And if you get a 7 to 9, you have a partial success, which usually entails you get some of what you want, but not all of it. And you often have to make some difficult decisions about that. So then strings we will get to later. You will definitely want to ask me about those when we get into character creation. Basically, it's a mechanical version of having influence over each other and influence over NPCs. So the specifics of what each of these moves are, we'll get to as we go through play, but I'm just going to go ahead and read them off. They should have been on the PDF that you guys had access to. So the first one is turn someone on. You guys are teens of some age, and so hormones run wild, and influencing and manipulating each other and other people through those hormones is like a default mode of expression in this game. And I'm going to use that probably a little bit more flexibly than the rules themselves might suggest. But basically, what my job is you do something that it looks like your teenage character is trying to, if you're doing something that could be construed as turning the other character on, I will point that out and have you roll. So basically, turn someone on is one of the default, I'm trying to influence this person mechanics. And because you're teenagers, the vast majority of influencing of other people, whether you intend it to be or not, involves some amount of hormonal hijinks. Your character might not be intending to turn them on, but by virtue of being 17 or 18 years old, things happen.
Sounds like some of you were way hotter than I was in high school.
Oh, bullshit.
I've seen the picture in the refrigerator.
Well, and also this is the fictional version of being a teenager too. So, you know, there's a little.
Well, we're in one of those shows where everybody's like 25 playing a 16-year-old
Right.
and is like in perfect makeup, you know.
Exactly.
Never met a pimple.
The ugly person just takes off their glasses and suddenly they're hot.
Suddenly they're gorgeous.
Yes.
Right.
That works for me every time. Yeah.
It's magic. Okay. So the next main rule is shutting someone down. Oh, where'd Thunder go?
Oh, he just walked into the kitchen for a
Just
second. He can hear
I
you.
can hear you.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the next major rule is shutting someone down, and this is basically your universal way of convincing an NPC or another player to stop doing the thing. Right. This frequently takes the form of like chastising someone or bullying someone or persuading someone, but it can also be minor physical altercations. Things that are not deeply dangerous physically. Like pushing someone against the locker might be a shut someone down roll.
Or it might be the previous one, depending on how you're doing it.
Well, right. Yeah, like literally shoving someone into a locker could be at least 3 or 4 of these rules.
Oh yeah.
So the next big one is keep your cool. And basically, anytime your character is doing something that I would have been anxious about doing as a teenager, I might ask you to roll keep your cool. So basically, like if you want your character to be shoplifting or to lie, like, no, I wasn't at the quarry.
I think I did that.
Right. Or like, convincing people that like your supermodel girlfriend in Canada is real. Right? It's a pretty flexible rule. The next big one is lashing out physically, which is pretty self-explanatory. The difference between this and the shutting someone down is you're meaning to hurt them. And in this system, as players, you have 4 hit points.
Oh, wow.
Punching someone hard enough is 1 hit point. Shooting someone with a gun or stabbing them or like potentially lethal damage is 2 hit points. Hitting them with a car is 3 hit points. Hitting them with a semi is 4 hit points. You get the idea, right?
Sure.
So most NPCs are like top out at about 2 hit points.
Makes sense.
And given how few hit points there are, I should also note that as per the rules, the standard rules, you get to heal once per session, and you heal 1 hit point during that. Unless you have a friend who is helping you intimately, perhaps semi-erotically, then you heal.
That did always get me back together way faster.
It's called sexual healing, and there's a song about that.
Right.
Right. Well, like this is supposed to emulate those high school dramas on like the teenage.
Oh, I remember high school drama. I lived through many of those.
Yeah. So, but like the fantasy version.
Pussies ever help someone who like got hit by a car.
Right, but as you're like wrapping the bandages around them, you look in their eyes, and the camera catches the shared glance, and it's suddenly more powerful.
All I'm saying is, if I ever get hit by a car, we should try.
You want me to try?
Right,
Okay,
just on the off chance.
Like doctor, listen.
Then there's next one is run away, which is pretty self-explanatory. And the last one that would require a little bit of explanation is gaze into the abyss. And for some characters, when you roll gaze into the abyss, it could be like if you have made an infernal pact, you might contact the demon to whom you are sworn and ask them a question, and they will tell you the answer depending on how you roll. If you are a witch, you might cast a spell that lets you see things beyond what your senses would normally allow. If you are a werewolf, you might gaze into the abyss by using your feral senses or your instincts. The most and this could be as simple. One of the examples that they give is maybe like there's an iconic scene that happens over and over again in teen paranormal romances. A young girl finds herself more and more intrigued by a mysterious brooding classmate, but clues keep piling up that there's something unnatural about them, maybe even sinister. When she can no longer dismiss the clues out of hand, and when she can no longer feign disinterest, she turns on her computer. The camera watches over her shoulder as she types nervously into the search engine. A flood of images and captions appear before her, and we see her eyes widen. She knows. She can't deny it any longer. He's a vampire. like that kind of thing. So gaze into the abyss can be as mundane as you're doing Google searches. Right. It's like the specifics of what you do and what it looks like is all up to whatever feels appropriate for your character. The important part is you want some knowledge, you don't have the knowledge, you pluck it out of the air to
Sure. I'm just imagining somebody rolling low on that, and they start their Google search about vampires, and then they just end up in fanfic, like just reading erotica the rest of the night.
Uh-huh.
Seems like what a 15-year-old would do.
I agree. So for example, on that one, if you roll a 10 or up, whatever you're doing, it works, and you have a barrage of information. On a 7 through 9, the abyss shows you confusing and alarming visions, but you roughly get your answer. And on a 6 or lower, you're looking through the fanfic. You got nothing. Okay, so pulling strings we'll get to probably in the first session or so. First, like actual scenes. Harm, those are your hit points. Healing, the specific wording is when you take time to tend to your wounds once per session, you may heal 1 harm. If someone else is there with you, tending to your wounds delicately and intimately, and perhaps with erotic subtext, you may heal an additional 1 harm.
So it doesn't have to be erotic.
No. The eroticism is subtextual. It just it has to be just enough that as the camera pans, the audience goes, "Will they or won't they?" Ooh. By all means, skew toward unrealistic and cinematic notions of recovery time, but think about what healing means for your character. Maybe you frame a scene where your character cries on the bathroom floor, or one where she finally lets her guard down so that Carly can help her, mechanically speaking, the difference between having an emotional breakdown in a bathroom stall is minimally different than going to a hospital. It applies some amount of logic in terms of what's going on with your character, but
Sure.
a lot of these mechanics are less oriented towards emulating specific actions and more focused on emulating narrative themes and beats. And also, I mentioned that you only have 4 hit points. One of the ways that works is that if you get to the point of losing all 4, if you get to the point of dying, you have options, which aren't necessarily pretty, but you have options. You only die if you want to. If you look at the option and go, "No, I'm okay with dying," then you die. Okay. And I think in terms of like being able to move forward, that's the basic overview. So that when you go and choose your character stats and stuff, you know what these different things do. Okay. The next section that I want to handle real briefly. Actually, the next 3 things I want to handle as part of session 0. The safety in the dark, and what level of sexual content do we want, and what level of PvP conflict do we want, are all kind of part of the same thing. The first one is that because the system is built around handling allegorical versions of real world bullshit, there is potential for things to get dark, right? So like some of the questions I'm going to ask coming up are, basically like, what kind of limits do we want to put on things? And I don't have very many specific questions on that front, but I'm going to want to kind of get a sense for the feel of what you guys are comfortable with. Regardless of what we agree on, it's important to remember that if anybody is uncomfortable at any moment, one of the things that is always available is just cutting to black. So if I start describing a scene and I start running with details that are just, no, we don't need to see that. Like if I'm going for the throat in a way that is overstepping what's good fun, anybody can say, let's fade to black. And even if it's a scene where like your character might die, we can fade to black and then like do some meta discussion and then pick up later. Because it's, if you think about this as a supernatural teen drama on TV, like it's not unheard of for the characters to suddenly be in way over their head more than anybody expected them to, and you're sitting there going, "Oh shit, are the writers really doing this?" And then it cuts away. And it's like, well, they did do that, but they did it in a way that wouldn't, lose their rating. That's what cutting the black is.
Sure.
The other thing that's available to you guys, if you're on a computer and you have your phone with you, I will, I don't have it set up very well right now, but I will have it such that you can privately message me. And like if there's something that you want to have toned down, either myself or another player that you're not comfortable being confrontational about, message that to me. And as soon as I see it, I will try to integrate what's going on. Okay? Likewise, if there are any particular things that you want to not be in the game, like you're welcome to message me at any point and say, hey, I'm not too keen on this kind of topic. So for example, the standard ones would be, and for most of my games, these are the defaults unless otherwise, child abuse, sexual abuse. Like if they happen, they're not happening on screen, right? They're not happening in a graphic way. And generally, unless there's a good reason to, we don't go there, right? Unless those are things that everybody in the group says, no, I'm like, let's put our teeth into that. Given that we are in the middle of the pandemic and things are stressful as hell everywhere, my personal suggestion is that we don't go super dark, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I relish in just like in Vigil, for example, one of the specific rules is that the game master introduces a bad scenario, and then they make it worse, and then they make it worse, and then they make it worse. And the players are superheroes, so they're supposed to jump in at some point. And your job as GM is to make things worse until a player goes, whoa, 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 no, I'm stopping this. Right.
Sure.
And one of the reasons for that approach is that it's kind of fun to just, no, it's getting worse. No, it can still get worse. Trust me.
Totally.
But like I said, given everything, I'm like, I don't know that I even want to go full on rated R, right? Maybe like soft R. That's kind of where my comfort level is. Does that sound agreeable?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Like, is that edge on anybody's comfort zone? Does anybody need it to be like more pulled back than that?
Nah, man, if you guys can manage to make me uncomfortable, I will see that as like a win. So like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I found a new thing that can make me uncomfortable. Like, you know what I mean? So like,
Certainly.
nah, man, you do whatever, and I will totally respect the soft R.
All right.
Yeah, I'm okay with things being like really as dark as like so I don't need them any like it's your comfort level. Like
Yeah.
I don't need them any like milder
Okay.
than R. That's fine with me.
Okay. Well, if I start getting darker than I intend to right now, like I said, anybody can call for a fade to black. The next two things, this game, literally part of the character mechanics involves sex moves, right? And because we're dealing with teenagers with lots of hormones, it's not a given that there is actual sex going on, but it is a given that there is sexual awkwardness. So I was kind of thinking that I would boil this down, like the simplest way to ask what level of that do we want to shoot for would be, do we want your characters to be sophomores in high school, seniors in high school, or freshmen in college? With the level of sexual content being adjusted appropriately for those 3 periods in one's life.
Some people were having a lot of sex as sophomores in high school. Not me, but some people were.
Well, certainly. Let me reframe. Like, that is true, but if we were producing a show about sophomores in high school, we would do some fast cuts before things got heavy.
They would have cut a lot of my life out.
Yeah. So yeah, like, you guys want to be on the younger and more like unavoidably awkward level, or you guys want to be the standard seniors, or do you want, like, I'm not sure I'm up for college right now.
Sure.
Okay. Let's do the seniors then, I think.
Sure.
What do you think, Linda? What are you feeling?
Senior sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think if I have kind of different characters in mind depending on which one we go to.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like that helps me narrow down my character creation by knowing which one we're doing.
Excellent.
So that's cool.
Excellent. And there are also like, it's not advertised quite as much, but there are rules for asexuality and just flat out like, no, that's not my thing. In general, though, if your character is a sexual character, it's recommended that you leave yourself open to, oh, I think I'm straight, but that guy just, said something in a way that I'm not used to feeling this way. And maybe you're still straight, but like you're fucking like 17, 18-year-old, and sometimes the wires do weird things. And sometimes you learn that, no, that's kind of who I am.
I didn't know that toasters did it for me, but whatever. Like, I love the idea of a character that just has absolutely no clue. Like, I got nothing, guys.
Okay.
A random image search? That'd be...
Okay. The next question, dealing with PvP conflict. I've seen some some groups that have played this game where you're basically, like kind of the Buffy model where like you guys are kind of a team, and at the end of the day you can bump heads, but you're ultimately on the same team come thick or thin. There's just moments of it looking like you're not. It's basically
Willow.
Right. So kind of a gentleman's agreement that drama will arise, but there is some sort of bond of loyalty that you guys ultimately have. On the other extreme, I've seen versions of this game where some of the players, that's the villain. Like, the GM doesn't have to make any villains because one of the players is the villain, and that's just the way it is. And then there's all of the messy middle ground. So the meta level question here is, how comfortable are you guys with your characters being at cross purposes? How comfortable? How much of a baseline, we do not go lower than this, do you guys want? Or another way of putting it, is this a good, neutral, or evil campaign? Right. With the understanding that good, like a party of a vampire, a werewolf, and a fae might not meet the D&D definition of good, but so I opened the table to you guys, for you guys to talk about. Like, you guys know each other fairly well, so I will, what do you guys want?
I tend to lean kind of towards neutrality myself.
Yeah.
At least that's what I say.
Okay.
I mean,
So
other people's opinions may vary. I don't know.
So Linda is cool with you guys not knowing whether or not you are being betrayed.
I don't know.
How do the rest of you feel about it?
My feelings are leaning more toward us being like a team, but I'm okay with playing it however.
So we've got one for neutral, one for goodish neutral.
Yeah.
I tend to play characters that buy into the idea of a group pretty quickly and easily.
Okay.
Because I tend to buy into a group pretty quickly and easily. But I think that not knowing if you can trust people and not really knowing what that means is a part of the teenage experience.
Mm-hmm.
And not having good control over whether or not you lash out at the people you care about can sometimes be a part of the teen experience.
Okay.
So I'm totally down with anything. My character will probably be somewhere in the Buffy to neutral area, but I'm also comfortable if they decided to take their character and try to kill me or something, totally understandable. Play your character and I will enjoy the game regardless. But I know that the character I have in mind, if they find a group relationship and identity, will want to covet that group relationship and identity, even if he lashes out like an asshole because he's a teenager.
Okay. Okay. So I'm kind of getting the it is agreed upon that if it is organic for a character to go rogue, then so be it. There is not there is a presumption of relative goodwill, but the writing is not so optimistic that it's guaranteed.
I'm good with that. Like you said, teenagers, I think usually tend to have good intentions and also usually tend to be assholes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
that's a good way of putting it. So when we think about our characters, start with good intentions, but it's possible that it don't work out that way.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the next thing that and this has potential to be kind of big picture sort of stuff too. And after this, we'll get to the actual making of your characters because it feels like it's taking a minute to get to that.
All right.
The default setting for this game is a small, semi-rustic town, right? Like maybe around like a tenth of Wichita or smaller, right? Ranging from like a one industry town up to of like a tenth the size of Wichita. So by default, would be kind of like setting it in territory that we're all familiar with, but we can also go the route of, yeah, no, this is, like at the base of a mountain in Colorado and there are woods around and, like just straight up picture the teenage supernatural drama where there is this relatively nondescript geographical mesh up that enables things to be hidden, right?
Hey, I'm cool with Sunnydale.
Okay. So
or whatever. But yeah, like if we wanted to do
Riverdale,
create your own town, that's
Dale.
great. And also
River, one of the Dales.
Okay. When we say Riverdale, tell me what that means.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but the Netflix version. There were woods. There were some creepy houses. Everybody knows something weird's going on with that family and with that family, but
yeah, there should be woods and there should be some fog and shit. I don't know.
Just a little bit of atmospheric reinforcement.
Yeah.
Right? Just somebody who let out all the fog machines.
Okay. So let's see. I think that's kind of
The occasional carnival still roams through.
What was that?
The occasional carnival still roams through.
Okay.
Excuse me, guys. I gotta use the restroom for just a moment. I'll be right back.
Creepy ass clowns.
Ass clowns? What?
Well, hopefully not actual literal ass clowns.
Gross.
You never know.
But I mean,
I mean, let's not kink shame. If the clowns are into certain things, that's their business.
It's their business as long as they stay away from me when they've got that makeup on.
Fair.
No joke.
Okay. So I'm kind of picturing a small town. There's probably a primary form of industry that isn't what it used to be. Like in Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the mines aren't as productive as they used to be. So there is the sense of the industrial center of the town is somewhat imperiled and is decaying, and with it the traditional power structures of the town. So what's our town's primary industry?
And I think of something that is actually on its way out.
Logging.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Which would explain why there's forests around. Or foresty area.
Sure. So kind of the industrialized destruction of natural environment.
Which would piss off the werewolf if we have one.
Yes.
And possibly also the Fae or the Witch.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. We've got a logging industrial center. Why is the logging industry not what it used to be?
Newspapers are less popular than they used to be. Magazines are finding themselves in decline because everybody's going online to read now.
Okay.
Yeah.
We could borrow something from one of the other campaigns where, like, maybe part of the problem is the area's resources. Like, there's a blight on the trees or something's wrong with the area.
Like there's something wrong with the trees? That'd be creepy.
Yeah.
Ooh.
There's something to kind of reinforce, like, not only is this a industry shift, there's something else that's driving it faster than the industry shift should account for.
I like that a lot.
So the big wigs in the industry they're the ones that they talk about how things are digitizing, and that's lowering the amount of produce or the amount of production for the town. But nobody likes to talk about how under the full moon the trees seem to ooze with blood.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
Or like they try and sell the trees to the paper mill, and the paper mill won't buy them. Insists that there's something wrong with the wood.
So like
It's all bloody.
Yeah.
The
The
trees
paper comes out red.
Yes. Whole new meaning to redwood. Okay. And so even aside from the metaphysical implications of, like, you guys being teenagers that are local to the town, you're familiar with, the spooky part, the where, like, you haze the freshmen by making them go out into the woods on a foggy, like, full moon in order to collect the blood and shit like that. But there's also, just on a baseline level, the trees are diseased and they're just not as good for logging as they used to be. Okay. And I'm going to throw in there that there's a little bit of scandal where supposedly, and this is an urban legend, nobody's really confirmed it, supposedly there's some say that the disease had been present in the trees before this, and it's just a coincidence. Other people say that the patriarch of the main logging family, that owns the logging company, his partner was killed under mysterious circumstances. Or his partner died under mysterious circumstances. And people say that that's when the trees started bleeding. Okay. My next question is, how many high schools are there? Is this a one high school town, or are there two? What size are we thinking?
I think one, right? It's a pretty small town, right?
Yeah, I think it'd be hard for him to sustain more than one.
Perhaps there used to be two. Or
The
So, like the town has gotten smaller?
At some point in time, they built a new high school, but then they've never used it. Nobody knows really why.
Oh, so it's not that the old high school is abandoned; it's that the new one was abandoned.
The new one has never been put into actual use for some reason.
Ooh.
I like that.
Yeah.
And like it was going to have all of the, because I remember when we talked about like renovating Century 2 or the library, there's this issue of like, well, it's cheaper to just build a new one than it is to to retrofit all of these kinds of digital age advancements that are necessary. So just build a new library and start from the ground up.
The logging.
Okay.
But the trees are like fucked up and like diseased and like using.
Oh no!
They look like they bleed when the moon is full.
That's not good.
So no one wants the logs. They don't want our wood. It's bad wood. And
I
then
can understand.
and then Ram, do you want to explain the thing about the high school?
Oh, well, Linda was just suggesting, like I asked the question, how many high, what?
Oh, he was asking how many high schools, and it's like, ooh, they built a new one, but we've never used it.
Yeah.
So we have two, but the new one is not in use. Nobody really knows for sure why.
Suspiciously looks like they're 24.
Maybe there's like some urban thing about like there being too many accidents or somebody pulled out of the construction deal to finish it or something.
They used too much wood from the forest.
Yeah, I know that's what I was gonna say. The walls are just bleeding or some shit.
There's a general sense. One of the things that we mentioned was that some people say that the blight on the woods has been around for a long time, and it just got worse. But other people say that it didn't really start until the business partner of the logging company died under mysterious circumstances. If there are also too many accidents happening around the high school and there's like bleeding walls, there's a general sense that the administrative level, the bureaucratic level, the power structure in this city is like, you're not allowed to go into the new high school, and everybody has conjectures about why.
Right.
But it's
they probably have like a very boring reason to explain why.
Right.
Yes.
Right. There's a perpetual gas leak.
Right.
Asbestos.
But pretty much those of you that know that the explanation, like when they say that the trees have blight, but you guys know that no, they fucking bleed under the full moon. When you hear the mundane explanations for why people can't go into the new high school, like you don't know what the real reason is, but you know that that's bullshit. And you know that there are corrupt business deals that have happened at high levels that probably play a role in this. Okay. I think before we get to the characters, we kind of have an archetypal sort of high school, kind of a archetypal small town, mono-industrial. What does crime look like around this town? Is this the kind of place where people like don't bother to lock their doors, or like in the center town? Like, is there a bad part of town?
There's always a bad part of town.
If there is, I live in it.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah, that's actually kind of a part of my character concept in my head is, yeah.
What was that, Joe?
Oh, it was building off what Linda said. Like, sometimes, like, even if, like, compared to elsewhere, the bad part of town doesn't seem that bad. Every town has a part of town that they think of as
That's the bad part.
not great. Yeah.
That one house with all the weird statuary and just strange junk in the yard.
I bet in this city, there are a lot of houses with weird statuaries and creepy things.
Good call. I like that. Lots of weird statues in town.
Yes.
Okay.
Nobody knows who makes them.
Also, I feel like even if this is the type of place where people don't lock their doors, I have a feeling like whatever stuff's gonna start happening is probably like gonna be.
Plus, if it's a small town with an economic problem, drugs are rampant.
Yeah.
So, like,
yeah.
So there's gonna be crime.
There's definitely meth.
Right, there's definitely meth.
Are we in Florida?
Like,
Sorry.
you know, the fucking trees bleed. Like,
Or at least the mystical version of meth, because you have a bunch of bored,
witches.
yeah, in a dying town, dying economy.
Oh God! One of the hazing rituals for the underclassmen is going out, and supposedly if you drink the blood from the trees, it's hallucinogenic. You trip.
Oh,
So you have to
there
go.
was a scandal. They used to have a maple syrup business in town at one point, and it went out of business because.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Like, no, we should use this.
The maple syrup business, the owner of it, whether appropriately or not, was run out of town as a witch.
Oh my God, vampires must love this town. They must just flock to this town. You pick yourself a in the woods today?
Yeah, and when I say that the maple syrup business runner was run out of town as a witch, I'm not saying that everybody agreed that this person is a witch so much as, you know, that cultural context of that person's weird.
Yeah.
Everywhere they went, they were shunned, ostracized, and people talked about the bad stuff.
Sure.
And the building where, like, this kind of like a warehouse where the maple syrup was produced in large batches still has this billboard with an overly happy, like, mascot character that you can see from, down the road. Okay. And so one of the big questions I had about the crime was also to kind of key into what the drug culture is like. And I think it sounds like it's pretty well understood that a lot. There is a lot.
Yeah.
This is an escape, a common escape.
Yeah.
Okay.
Meth,
Oh, go ahead.
weed. Meth, opiates, weed. Seems like those things would come hand in hand in a town like this.
You got that family where everybody knows that he's abusive to his wife, or she's abusive to her husband.
Mm-hmm.
They abuse each other. They beat each other up, and they're screaming and fighting all the time.
Sure.
You got the drunk. Got to have a town drunk.
Mm-hmm.
He knows why the trees are bleeding, but nobody believes him when he talks about it because it sounds so ridiculous. Can't possibly be true.
Look, it's definitely not the ducks. I know, I don't know what it is, but I'm telling you, dude, it's not
the ducks. Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of playing off of, actually, you're talking about if somebody, like, if they lock the doors, actually having one of the neighborhoods be regarded as, like, weird in town because they don't lock the doors and crime is on the rise, but they don't get bothered, and that actually being, like, one of the subsets, the supernatural, like, they're protecting their house in some other way, and they like to joke about how they never lock their doors.
Linda?
And
Shut up.
Does that remind you of anybody?
I don't know what you're talking about. My door always gets locked.
You're right. I have worked at that.
Yet I appreciate it. It has done much to add to my sense of security.
Sure. What was that?
Okay. And so they'll probably be one of the well-to-do families.
yeah, like one of the, like, supposedly nicer part of town, but there's also kind of this ominous reputation about that nicer part of town because things, like, it doesn't work like it should in terms of safety, because it seems like it should be a great target for vandalism or theft, especially to fund, like, drug habit. And
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like we kind of have the idea of this town. The logging industry is decaying, and with it, the power structures are falling behind. There is a general sense of blaming new technology, but everybody understands that there is something darker going on. There is corruption and cover-up from the highest levels of the power in the town, and the crime is on the rise, and the town is flooded with drugs. And there's a lot of weird statuary for some reason. Okay. With that as a backdrop, and with this sense of the spoiling of nature and the revenge of nature, the angry response of nature, and the decay of society, with those kind of themes in mind, let's go ahead and make our characters. Okay. I sent you guys the PDFs. Do you still have access to them?
mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So if you guys had a chance to look them over, let me jump down to the official rules recommendation for character creation process. See if it. Okay, so the first one is obviously going to be picking your skins. I don't know if there's a specific rule about only one person playing any given skin, But every campaign that I've seen so far kind of follows by that, even if it's not an actual rule. So does anybody have any strong opinions about what they're wanting to play? What do you guys got your heart set on?
I'm still trying to winnow down the top 3.
Okay,
What are
which
your
one?
top 3, Linda?
Ghost, Hollow, and Witch.
Okay.
My number 1 right now is Werewolf.
I'm shocked. Shocked, I tell you. I never would have imagined you.
Because he looks the part.
That actually, it has way more to do with the level senior, it being the senior thing. Yeah, totally. Werewolf is where I'm thinking.
All right, let's go ahead and we can change this later, but let's pin you down as werewolf.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else have strong opinions? Like Olivia, what are you thinking?
I related in real life the most to the mortal, so I don't think going to play the mortal.
That's a good call. One of the things that this game does, if we were sitting down in person and having just a really intimate, small role-playing experience, because these roles are built around real-world dynamics, it could be cathartic and to explore those kinds of things. The flip side is that since we're doing this remotely, and we're not going as dark as we could, choosing a dynamic that is far removed from who you are as a person and just running with it is a totally viable option.
Yeah. I'm really leaning toward, I really like the witch, and I really like the I think it was the ghost was the other one I liked.
Okay, so Olivia and Linda, you guys are both kind of in contest for...
I know.
Well, I have a third option in here still, so I could go with the Hollow.
Okay.
I'm like...
Well, you could also go with, I really don't care. Whichever one you pick, I can pick the other one, because I like both of these.
I have not come up with one that I like best yet. Give me a sec.
Okay, well, I think then if you, I think I'm leaning maybe towards the witch.
Okay.
So.
You can put me down as Faye,
Set that one aside.
since werewolf is taken.
All right. Okay. So then, Linda, that puts you with Ghost or Hollow. The Ghost is basically this support to the point of self-sabotage. And the Hollow is basically struggling with constructing any kind of identity. So I think let's take a look at the darkest self of those two. Which of those darkest selves sound like the most interesting to play for you?
I think Hollow sounds way more creepy and disturbing and interesting.
Okay.
And difficult. So I'm gonna go with that one.
Okay.
See how it goes.
Okay.
I think it gives me very like Frankenstein vibes.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's basically
That was if we had done like sophomore, that's would have been where it had gone with it.
I can dig it. Okay, so Linda is going for a hollow. So in the context of this setting, the next question, just in terms of theme, how do you guys relate to the setting? Like Thundy, how does your werewolf relate to this decaying contrast between industry and nature and the decaying
What does he
social
think
order?
about it, or how does he relate on a like metaphoric level?
How is your character's identity informed by the setting?
Well, I have a backstory in mind.
Okay.
That came to me just as based on the town and stuff.
Okay.
And this I want to like give you guys the pitch and let me know if this is a little too dark for backstory for what we want to do.
Okay.
Okay. The idea with the backstory for him is the werewolf is like against all the structures in an area and has that unchecked aggression that he struggles with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the backstory for why he's that way is that his mom worked in the with some of the movers and shakers in the city, and she passed suddenly, and it was ruled a suicide, but he never believed that it was a suicide. And since then, his father started drinking and started lashing out, becoming more verbally and physically abusive. Not in like, sending him to the hospital, but in like hitting him every once in a while. Like that's not a place of safety, right?
Sure.
And so the way he relates to this is he doesn't know the secret of what actually happened to her and wants to know, and holds resentment that like he got the feeling like the town itself is covering this up somehow and is untrusting of the power structures and resentful that everybody just is playing along and not asking the obvious questions, demanding answers from the adults in charge.
Sounds great.
Cool. I don't have his name yet.
No, that's fine.
There's a person in my life that I think of when I think of this, and once I figure out his name, I'll have it for you.
Sure.
Last name was Swartwood, but I can't remember his first name.
Oh. Okay. So Olivia, as the witch, the big question that I have is, like, we have two general conflicts going on in the big picture. One is about nature fighting back, or not even fighting back, but like having this kind of like vengeful response to industry. The other is the decay within the town. How does your witchcraft fit into either of those? Which of those two are you responding to the strongest?
I'm thinking probably the first one.
The nature?
Yeah. I don't know. It takes me a little bit longer to come up with a backstory than it takes like you just had that all just like
yeah, really good.
what, like 20 minutes before game, he was like, I don't know, maybe one of these things, and now you got like a whole.
I told you it would come to me.
I know you're brilliant, and I'm gonna have to like really think about this.
Channeling other creatures' life stories from other worlds.
So, a follow-up question.
Makes sense.
Olivia.
Yeah.
Are you more comfortable in town or are you more comfortable in the woods? Like, are the woods a scary source of power? Are they an enemy or are they comforting?
I'm gonna say that she's pretty comfortable in the woods.
Okay. Okay. So Linda.
Huh?
Let's see, with the hollow, so your character is constructed in some way. What does that mean? Are you
Born of a wish?
Born of a wish?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Because you know how wishes can be tricksy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know who is doing?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you know who is making the wish?
Probably whoever her mother is. Her mother.
Okay.
I'm going with the mother. That's a standard fairy tale thing. They wish for a child and they get one, but it's not quite what they expect.
Ah, so kind of a changeling type character.
Sort of ish, yeah.
Okay. Cool. And that kind of fits in with the unknown power of the woods that we've got going on. As well as, like when we talk about the corruption
Fucking sassy as mine. That slam the door up until the actual closing of the door and then just shut it. And then I was like, I didn't slam it. Did you hear the whoosh of air? And then
she's hilarious.
I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay. So the other theme, being the dark deals that are made as a part of the corruption in the leadership of the community. Like the dark deals kind of like goes all the way through the town. Okay. And Joe, do you want to explore right now, or are you still kind of like staying low key right now?
I'm actually doing a little bit better now that now that the sun's gone down and I don't have any extra light coming in.
That works.
Sound super spooky.
So how connected is your fae to the woods? Is that kind of a home, or is something going on in the woods that you find uncomfortable?
I was kind of thinking of it as an uncomfortable comfort, like the woods have been getting or feeling progressively more comfortable as the town feels progressively less comfortable.
Okay.
And they're getting real creeped out by that.
Sure. Well,
just kind of playing off the idea in the skins of them being like obsessed with promises, and on the perhaps lighter side, like justice, since there's a lot of broken promises and injustice going around town. like that messing with the like Fae aspect of their development.
Sure. And
But
while
nature can't break promises. Nature is its own promise.
yes, the woods don't break their promises. Their promises are dark, but they don't break them.
Right.
Okay. So let's see. The next recommendation after you pick your skins. Let's see. Next recommendation is choosing identities. So once you've chosen your skins, the identity section on the inside left page, your name, your looks, your eyes, and your origin. One of the ways that this game tries to streamline things is that you're just outright given a list that you can circle or underline from them. And if there's something else that really pulls to you, you can do that, but you can outright just multiple choice this part of your character if you want. So take a moment to look over those and note your name, your look, your eyes, and your origin.
Already done.
Oh, yeah, you born of a wish.
Right. Looks haunted, has wide eyes, goes by Frankie. She plays all the violent sports.
Okay.
And she's pissed off if they won't let her on the boys' teams. Because they hit harder.
Nice.
That makes sense. All right, so I think.
Although if we have field hockey here, girls' team's probably just the worst. Because those chicks are vicious.
Nice. Are we far enough north that like the lake freezes over?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Ice skating. The risk of being out on the ice when it's too thin. And yeah, definitely. I like that.
And I just casually inserted the fact that there was a lake because, of course there is.
There's gotta
Right.
be a Where else would you, roll the logs?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
But even though the lake freezes over, for some reason the boys do still take their shirts off way too often. Like, it seems like it's almost every episode for some reason. Somebody goes shirtless.
You managed to get your shirt torn off.
Just thinking about the thing on what we do in the shadows. They're talking about what happens to the clothes when they turn into bats.
Right. You guys watched What We Do in the Shadows?
Oh, I love it.
Okay. When I was looking up that name, it ended up being Jeff, and I about lost my shit and couldn't use it.
You're Jess.
Jez.
Oh.
It just slays me. Ugh.
Okay. When you've chosen your name, look, eyes, and origin, just like announce that you've done it. Linda has already, and we will move from there.
Talking.
What was that?
I was asking who you were talking to.
Oh, I was just saying that Linda has already declared that she's chosen the identity stuff. As soon as you guys, Olivia, Thundy, and Joe, as soon as you've chosen your identity traits, let me know, and we will move on.
I have.
I've chosen mine.
Okay, Joe, are you good to go?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll ask you for the character introduction later. The next thing you want to do is at the very bottom of that, you'll see 2 rows of stats: hot, cold, volatile, and dark. You'll want to choose one of those rows. If you have any questions about what the stats mean and what they do, hot is basically what you use to roll to turn people on. Cold is what you roll to shut people down. Volatile is what you use to lash out physically and to run away. It's both fight and flight. And dark is spooky stuff. So gaze into the abyss.
Man. That's a tough call. Yeah. Okay. So you basically pick one of the 2 rows.
Yeah. And it's basically like 2 different versions of your archetype.
Got it.
And so as soon as you guys have selected that, then your next step that you can do just kind of independently is choosing your moves. Each one of you has different instructions for how many moves you can choose from your list. So
Done.
So Joe, did I just hear that you had chosen your move?
No.
Yeah.
I have.
Oh, okay, Linda has.
Yep. You want to know what they are?
Hold off until everybody else is chosen.
Okie dokie.
That doesn't make any sense.
Are you sure?
Okay. So the moves, it's not just the first row, but it's the second row as well?
Yeah. Let's see, your werewolf. Let me pull up their thing. Okay, yeah. So for you, each one of the skins kind of handles it a little bit differently.
Sure.
For werewolf, you just choose 2 from the list, the being primal dominance, scent of blood, howl at the moon, spirit armor, heightened senses, and unstable.
And unstable. Okay. That's weird. Interesting. So if you did that, it would work together. Okay. And the strings are like, I'm imagining, how did the strings work?
Basically, they are how you influence other characters. So one example is that if you have a string over Linda's character, you can say something that you want Linda's character to do, and then if Linda's character does that thing, Linda gains an experience point. So basically, like, a string might it represents some sort of connection or leverage over a person. And so, sometimes it's, they think you're hot. Sometimes it's, a secret that they don't want to have, make out, like get out. When you have a string on someone, some of the other options that you have is that you can get a bonus on rolls against them. You can also do extra damage to them when you attack them. So, for example, with the werewolf primal dominance, if you harm someone, take a string on them, you can then turn around and use that string to hurt them worse. Because of all of these characters, the werewolf is the scrapper.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise, right?
Right.
You might even call him that. Scrappy.
Yes.
That's what you call him when he really irritates you.
God.
Because nobody really liked Scrappy.
So what are we choosing?
The two things that one is your stats, the hot, cold, volatile, and dark, and the other is your moves, which for the Fae,
I mean, I can see them, but I can't mark them because it won't let me save the PDF to my phone.
sure. Do you have a piece of paper or something that you could take some notes on?
I can go find one.
Okay.
What's the, sorry, which one did you choose? I'll just take a screenshot and send it to the group.
Faye?
Hey, right, sorry.
The second line, and it already has fairy contact mark.
Yep, that one comes with the territory, and then
Okay.
you get to choose one other move.
There you go. Nice clear picture for you of those pages.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And choosing your move is your moves is basically like one of the biggest mechanical choices that you're making. They all reflect different types of these archetypes. And as play progresses, you have the opportunity of expanding your repertoire. But
Once I stop thinking about this, I'll be able to tell you.
Okay.
It'll take me a moment to check in.
Sure.
Okay, I've got mine.
Okay. Hold on to it for a moment. Olivia, how are you doing?
I picked my stuff.
Okay. Linda, you've got your stuff picked?
Yep.
Okay. And Joe, how are you feeling?
I think I got it.
Jason wants to do. If you want to move there, if that'd be more comfortable, I can grab that chair.
Can we? Is
Yeah.
it gonna work?
We'll just move this.
All right.
We'll just shift the angle of this. And then
We're gonna shift how we're looking, so don't mind us.
Okay. So, Joe,
Now
did you have any questions, Joe, or did you say that you've got?
No, I got it.
Okay. Cool.
This is a really hard choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? No, he's too impulsive. He can't have armor.
Oh.
Let's try it again.
So between Thundy's character and Joe's character, we have at least two that have a very natural vigilante bent to them.
Yep. One of my options affects experience.
Mm-hmm.
How do we gain experience other than through that type of option?
Okay.
How are you wanting to run that?
Let's see. The main way that the characters, like the standard way of gaining experience in the game, is you fail a roll. So anytime you
Okay.
fail a roll, you mark experience.
Oh.
Don't
So
know
if
how
you-
that works.
Yeah. You learn from your mistakes. Your mistakes force you to grow.
Okay.
Then the next standard way of gaining experience is if one of the other players tries to pull a string on you and influence you to say, hey, I want you to go do this thing, and you do it, you get an experience.
Huh.
So the game actually encourages the players to kind of use leverage on each other.
Just
Sure.
a minute. Yes. The furnace has not been working. Oh, do you want this closed? When did it stop? It didn't kick on
Oh, no.
yesterday.
They showed up to fix her heater.
I don't know.
Oh. Really?
Yeah.
At 8:30?
Right.
Jesus.
I tried flipping the breaker switch between
I really want to play with
behind the
that.
door of the bedroom on
The best. So this is weird. Mechanically, it doesn't seem like anything changes if I transform into a terrifying wolf creature.
Let's see, what are you looking at?
So my darkest self
Mm-hmm.
is I transform into a terrifying wolf creature.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have one in the
There's
bathroom.
no stat changes.
I didn't want my plant.
So mechanically, it seems like I am just as dangerous with my
I appreciate that.
human hands as I am as a wolf creature.
Yeah. The big difference being that when you're your darkest self, it's more of a narrative thing than anything else.
Sure.
So, but yeah. Like you don't suddenly gain claw damage.
Right.
The right-hand bedroom is behind the door. The switch is on your left. Yay, stuff is happening.
Excellent.
Your breaker in your room, in the room there,
Uh-huh.
it doesn't want to reset. So it's, I'm gonna guess it's that breaker
It's
because
probably
I
got
can
some.
hear it trying to ask for it here,
Mm-hmm.
and when I try and flip it, it's still real
Yeah.
sloppy.
Yeah, I noticed it felt
Like
weird,
it never
but-
really gave it a good click going back.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I can't get an electrician out here tonight.
Or probably tomorrow because it's Thanksgiving. Which is fine.
I'm going to assume that, but
Yeah.
you've got heat, and you can get it to a good temperature. So we'll try and get it lined up to have the electrician come out, and we'll do a follow up as well.
Fantastic.
Okay. We'll do our best to try and get him over as quickly as possible. Friday's supposed to be a little bit nicer too.
Yeah.
And even tomorrow. And I'm very sorry. I mean, we just don't have that capability.
Oh, I understand totally. It's not a big deal.
Oh, I did not turn off the light. What would you mind? It's just right down the.
If it does, if it did get too cold, I have some friends I could go and stay with. So.
Okay. Well, we will
But I don't
let.
expect I'll need to, because like you said, the space heaters have actually managed to warm it up pretty nicely.
Right, and then the good part is that you have a unit above
To help
you.
hold the heat.
Yes, exactly. And you've got your windows insulated very well.
Yes.
So you're kind of a step ahead. Your house is actually warmer than mine. But we will.
Or can it be an NPC?
Yeah. In some of the games that I've had a hand in developing, it would be able to be NPCs, just as a way of expanding the supporting cast. But for this system, the people mentioned in your backstory are all fellow players.
Okay.
Joe, you are still muted. There we go.
Is that better?
Yep, you're back in. Okay, so let's go ahead. Was everybody able to choose their moves?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is everybody
Okay.
able to what?
Choose their moves.
Oh, yeah.
So let's go ahead and do the thing where each of you introduces your dude. Give us your name, your look, your eyes, your origin, and just an overview of what kind of person you are. If you want to tell us what the explicit moves are, that's fine. Otherwise, I'll ask for them later. So, does anybody want to volunteer first? No.
You guys already heard half of mine, so I'll just keep going. I'll
Okay.
start.
Tell us about your dude.
My dude is Colin Coulson. He's a unkempt werewolf with fierce eyes and an ancestral power as his origin. Kicked in around puberty, and that kind of has helped to fuel his paranoia about his abusive father.
Oh.
He's I guess my stats are hot 1, cold -1, volatile 2, and dark -1. So I took the more volatile option rather than the super hot option. So he hasn't kind of found his hotness yet.
But he still gets topless, right?
He will, yeah. You know, and it's like he's only 1 point away from, like, once I get that first experience thing, then he'll have a little bit of hotness. He just has to find the right hairdresser first, really. That's the problem. He doesn't know how to use the
He'll learn how to
eyeshadow.
wax.
Right. And I've got primal dominance and heightened senses as my thing, if that matters.
Okay. All right. Who's next? This is where I start playing the like one of those like Jeopardy theme music.
Yeah. I was starting to hear it in my head. Fine, I'll go.
Okay, go for it.
So, Frankie the Hollow. She looks haunted. She's got wide eyes. She was born of a wish. Her mom's. She likes to play all the violent sports and wants to be on the boys' teams because they can hit harder. Hot 1, cold -1, volatile -1, dark 2, metamorphosis and strange impressions.
Okay, let me take a note here real quick. You said that was metamorphosis and strange impressions.
Strange impressions.
Okay, and
That creepy dark vibe going.
yes.
Big wide eyes, unlike mine.
Okay, and what did you go with the top or bottom stats? You already
Top.
mentioned, but top. Okay,
Top set.
all right. I was just not writing quickly enough.
It's okay.
Oh, and I should include in this and, you know, like pronouns. So I think Thundy, you were casually using he, him, and Linda was casually using she, her. Is that right?
Yeah, but you know, they, them works for her just as well. She doesn't care.
Okay.
I say she because, yeah, born female body.
Okay.
Plays the boys' sports, whatever.
Not deeply committed to a feminine identity.
Definitely not.
Okay. All right. Let's see. And next up, Olivia or Joe?
Let me pull up.
My character is Cordelia.
Okay.
She is edgy, has deep eyes, and was taught by her grandma. She's got hot 1, cold -1, volatile -1, and dark 2. And then I picked 2 hexes. And the ones I picked were binding and watching.
Okay.
And I'm really not great at coming up with backstories, but you want a little bit of a backstory, or
Sure.
are we
If
doing
you got
that right
something, if you got something that feels like it's coming up, let it
now? I
roll.
have a very little bit of something.
Sure.
Okay, so Cordelia was taught by her grandmother because her mom like lost herself in drugs. Like, she's still alive, but she's just like barely like functioning. And
Okay.
so Cordelia's lived with her grandmother since she was really young. Her family is very like matriarchal and has some they're like very witchy. I don't know. They have a lot of witches. And then Cordelia's grandmother has told her since she was really young that she was going to be a really powerful witch. So she's never told her that from the beginning. She's never like held any of that back from her.
Okay. So like it kind of sounds like witchcraft in Cordelia's family is like, it's not a secret. Like,
Right. Exactly.
everybody in the family knows. Like, the reason why this family is matriarchal is because the women in this family have badass supernatural abilities. Just
Yes.
okay. Including your mom, right?
Yeah, but I think she's so like out of it that I don't think she's really like seen a lot of that.
Okay, so her drug use interferes with that.
Right.
Yeah. And like, depending on like, one thing that goes to my mind, and you know, this is not canon in the least, but one of the things that occurs to me is that frequently acts of metaphysical power, especially like dark transformative experiences, are frequently the kinds of things that can also be traumatizing.
Right. Yeah.
And it is very easy to imagine a person in a town like this having a traumatic spiritual experience and flipping the fuck out and avoiding it as much as they can and burying whatever they have in the drugs.
Yep, exactly.
Awesome. Okay, and that takes us to Joe.
Where did I put my nope, that's moves. That's not the right photo. Faye, I went with the audacious alien interpretation, so the bottom line, the hot 1, cold -1, volatile 2, dark -1.
Sure. Since Sunday went with the werewolf, you went with the other one that has a comparable volatile stat.
Yes.
You can hold their own. Throw down. They can throw their own. Hold their own. Throw down. Gonna get there. Brandon's dying. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
So tell us a
You're
little
good.
more about your dude.
They're Andy, short for Anders. They're disheveled. They have piercing eyes. They're Fae-blooded. And their family knows enough to know that they're not quite like human, that it might have been coming down the pipe, but not like it was guaranteed.
So kind of like there's family legends about granddad or
right. But unfortunately, since their family was like involved with some shady business dealings, growing up with people who habitually break their business deals has done a number on their like stability and sense of you know, they get a little black and white.
right.
And they're thinking that like everything seems like a promise thing gets turned up, and that's also kind of the thing where like which mode I went with of they don't have a handle on the hotness yet because they haven't learned how to use the intensity quite right, and so they just end up unsettling a lot of people by
right.
You make a little too much eye contact, man.
So I'm picturing it now. Andy and I'm blanking on your character's name, Thundy. What was it?
Colin.
I'm picturing like season 1 of this TV show, since we frame it as a TV show. These two characters that are awkward in their own respective ways, but you know that the casting director chose them because they're gonna get hot.
Yep.
They're
Yep.
just the makeup department hides it a little.
Dude.
Okay.
I'm sorry. What was your character's name, Joe?
Andy.
Andy. Okay. Is it A-N-D-I or Y?
They don't care.
Okay.
They are the kind of the reverse of your character. They were assigned male, but they don't give a flying fuck.
Gotcha.
Okay. And what moves did he go with? Does Andy have?
Fairy contract was obligatory.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went with lure.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a way of kind of like amassing experience quickly. Like,
Your character is all about the promises.
yeah. Which makes it extra bad, with
Yeah. Oh, especially like growing up with your family, like with the shady business practices.
Yeah.
In the social hierarchy of this town, if your family is doing shady business deals, like where are they on the economic hierarchy? Are they like, are you, do you have family members that are, if not actually, they are practically on the city council by virtue of how much economic push and pull they have? Do you have kind of like the sleazy used car salesman level of economic impact? Or are they kind of the slumlords? Like where on that spectrum are they? Elites, middle management, or like?
I'm thinking that like they started out as elites and they're kind of on their way out, with the complicating factor that part of the Fey-blooded is like their dad caught their mom in one too many lies and divorced them at one point. And so like half of their family is the elite, and the parent that the dad that they're living with is on the outs and kind of now a pariah because he was in the halls of power. And
Sure. So like you've got cousins that have the nicest toys.
and I grew up accustomed to the nicest toys, but
Gotcha.
like in certain like holidays and weekends, I see my mom.
Mm-hmm. So you live with your father, and he's you said that your mom was the one that had the infidelity, and your father divorced her, and as like the blowback of that is that now he's in the economically depressed situation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. I can dig it. All right. So the next step is to go through the backstories. And basically these are mechanically reinforced ways of making soap opera level drama between the players. So you guys all start out with some degree of influence over each other and some degree of awareness about each other. So this is another process where somebody goes first, and we kind of workshop. If they have a strong idea of who the person the backstory is describing is, they can assign that. But otherwise, if they're not sure, we can workshop it. Somebody can volunteer for that role. So who wants to go first?
I will.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's see. Let me go to the
So-
follow.
Yeah.
Okay. So your first one, you've been taking your social cues from someone, and doing so has taught you a lot about them. Gain 2 strings on them. So
Yep.
which of our ensemble cast have you been paying an uncomfortable amount of attention to? Who do you emulate?
It's going to be Andy because my dad works for his family. Is their family.
Okay.
So I've gotten a lot of exposure to that family. Learned a lot about them through listening to what my parents say.
That also means that you've seen Andy and Andy's father's like fall from grace in the wake of the divorce.
Right.
Okay. So you have 2 strings on Andy. Your next one is someone's seen through your invented past and realized it's all lies. They gain 2 strings on you. So who do you think knows that you are basically a wish made true?
It's got to be Cordelia because she's a witch and she's supposed to be really, really powerful. And Grandma's been grooming her since she was born. So, yeah.
Okay. Does that
She's
make
been
sense
taught
to
to
you?
notice these kinds of things.
Does that make sense to you, Cordelia?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Awesome. So, Cordelia, mark down that you have 2 strings on, I don't have the names down yet.
Thank you.
Frankie?
Frankie, yes.
Because when though it sounds like a Frankenstein thing was mentioned, I was like, okay, there's the name chosen.
Makes sense.
I love it.
Okay, who's up next? Olivia, you want to go?
Sure.
Okay, let me pull up the witch. So you start the game with 2 sympathetic tokens. Decide whose and what they are. So you have an item that's important to 2 of the other characters, 2 of the other players. Which characters and what are the items that you have? And if you can workshop it and ask for people for suggestions if you want.
Yeah, I'm going to have to because I've been thinking about this for a while and I have no freaking idea.
We have a suggestion. Frankie.
Gotta have something on me. Because she knows that I was a wish.
Sure.
Yeah. So I have some kind of a personal item of yours. That's what this is, right?
Yes. So what kind of personal item would this be? And it'd be really cool if it was somehow attached with your status as a wish construct, Frankie. Frankie.
Status as a wish construct, huh?
Yeah, like you know, like the equivalent of the glass slipper, right? Or some object that the whoever created you.
The childhood doll that Mom had sewn for her baby daughter to have.
Oh.
While she was,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh.
Hand-sewn baby doll made by Mom for her baby girl that she wished for, and kind of got.
Nice.
I really love the idea that like she wished for a baby, a child So she was given a child, not an infant. Like, just a child showed up, like 5 or whatever.
That's kind of how adoption works. Yeah.
Right. But
It had all these things like for like a crib, and Frankie does not fit in the crib.
right, all these things that don't mesh, and the child is strange. Like, has to learn how to be a person, you know? Like, isn't at all mesh. Like, I love that. Like that idea.
Okay, so we you now, Cordelia, have an item that is important to either Colin or Andy. If either of them have a suggestion for something that is important to them.
If you chose Colin, I would suggest that you have something that originally belonged to his mother, before she ostensibly committed suicide. And but that's not saying that you should for me. That's just, if you did, that would be the place I'd go.
So does it mean anything that, like, so I have 2 strings on Frankie, but the sympathetic tokens, I can use them to, like, they give me power, but not necessarily in relation to the people that I have the sympathetic tokens of, right? Does that matter?
The sympathetic tokens basically allow you to cast spells on the person from a distance.
On that person that I have. Oh.
So, for example, if
I pissed you off, you can make all my hair fall out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like if you guys end up getting in trouble with a local drug dealer and somebody's able to like pocket their phone, you could use that as a sympathetic token to cast spells on the drug dealer from across the city. Otherwise, you have to see the person as you cast the spell.
Okay, well then I do think that I want one for Colin.
Okay.
Is it Collin?
I'm actually using a spelling of a friend of mine. It's Caulan.
All right, Mr. Fancy Pants. Caulan.
Colin, not Colin.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like cowl.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep, exactly.
That's
I kind of dig that.
That's fucking creepy now.
So
Colin.
Yeah, that changes it a lot.
Yeah, that's why I'm not saying, like, I know it's very, very subtle, but in my head, I'm not saying Colin, I'm saying Colin, which is a little, like, it's longer slightly.
Yeah.
I totally hear the difference.
So what item of Colin's mom does Cordelia have? And this was probably something that after Colin's mom passed, Colin had for a while.
Yeah.
So it could be as simple as a ring, or
I was thinking some kind of jewelry, like.
Ooh, you have her engagement ring.
That's so fucked up. If I have your childhood baby doll and his mom's engagement ring, like, that is very, like.
I mean, ritual spellcaster, you're all fucked up.
I was thinking.
Better than, like, toenails, right?
It's amazing the kind of witchcraft.
Whatever the other
small
ritual
items.
spellcasters.
I have his
mom's
mom's
not looking.
toenail clippers.
So if you want to scale it down, that's totally fine. Like, think of if your character has intentionally collected these items, it is because you think that this person is somebody that you might need protection from, or you might need to keep an eye on, or they're a person of interest that you kind of want to, like, have an ace in your pocket either for or against them. And the importance of that token kind of depends on how much of an ace in the hole you want against that person. So when you have Frankie's hand-sewn doll, that probably indicates that you know what Frankie is. We've established that, and that's kind of scary or weird. So you've got the big guns for Frankie. With Colin, it might be that you don't know that Colin is a werewolf, but you see Colin as somebody who is prone to lashing out, and you've seen Colin's father, and so you're kind of like, yeah, that jerk over there, I might need to cast a binding spell on him.
Yeah, the binding spell was why I was like, I definitely want something of Colin.
What about like a locket?
Yeah, I like that.
Has like her picture in it or something.
No, it has your baby picture in it.
Sure.
Yeah, that's good.
Maybe a lock of hair.
A lot of times lockets will have two pictures, right? One on each side.
Yeah. Do you have siblings?
Just me. I didn't want to. I was already skirting the child abuse thing.
Right.
I did not want to bring any more children into that home.
Good call.
Thank you on behalf of those imaginary children.
I'm like, it started when he was like 14. It's teenager abuse.
It's just trying to toughen you up and help you be a real man.
And also,
Right.
there's a degree of separation between you saying this happens to my character versus like there's a degree of agency and control that you as a player are enforcing about that, as opposed to me as a GM going, yeah, so around the corner.
Right, sure, totally.
Okay, so Cordelia, one of the others caught you rummaging through their friend's stuff but hasn't said anything. They get a string on you. You've already got something with Frankie and Colin. If we diversify,
Yeah.
then Andy's the one that saw you.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I'm down with that.
So Andy has not said anything about it, but you have seen Cordelia get up to some shit. And you get a string on them.
Gotta note that down. It's funny that you mentioned that I haven't said anything, considering what my backstory is.
And your motivation for not saying anything is wide open for your interpretation.
Yeah.
Okay. So next up is either Andy or Colin. Who wants to go next? We got our two bruisers.
All right, I'll go. I lack subtlety, so everybody gets a string on me.
Oh, well, that one's easy.
Yeah.
Like,
this one's hard, and I don't really know what to do with this one. And I was, you spend weeks watching someone from a distance. Their scent and mannerisms are unmistakable to you now. Gain 2 strings on them. And I'm really not sure. There are good reasons why it could be everyone. Like any one of you would make sense. Like I've got the werewolf heightened senses, so I might know that something's wrong with Frankie, like something's different. But Cordelia has a family that seems like it might be pretty powerful in this town, and he might be suspicious of that, and like be suspicious in that way, or Andy has a family that's like, or Andy has that family that has been in business, but also in and out of being wealthy and stuff.
Mhm.
And Colin might be like, might not have recognized the fall from grace, as young people tend to assume that businesses are doing great, and might think that they are one of the people, movers and shakers, that are causing problems, and might be like focused on them that way. So I'm not really sure.
Do we have any volunteers for who wants to be the focus of a somewhat stalkerish tendency?
Yeah, right?
Does anybody want to willingly consent to being stalked by the werewolf?
I mean, he's got enhanced senses, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, you can stalk me, I'm gonna stalk you right back.
So, I mean,
Right?
I also feel like
the witch is basically a type of human. You've got the Fey blood, and then you've got the what the fuck is that thing over there, which is me.
Right.
So, I mean, which one is more likely to be something that's going to impinge on werewolf senses, as that's potentially dangerous in and of itself? The Fey blood, the witch, or the...
it would be the Fae.
He doesn't
Yeah.
know what
If you're
that
talking like
represents.
actual senses, like actual smell, don't you think maybe they would?
Maybe if
Be
the
the most-
enchantments didn't make that play off as normal.
Like
It's only Fey blood. She's not actual... Well, she's Fey, but...
they.
Hey,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So Andy's good with all pronouns.
Fair. Okay. So, like, Andy has a stronger, like, if Colin is approaching it from a vigilante type angle, Andy has the strongest connection to the corruption of industry that Colin would be focused on. The flip side being that, you know, again, Frankie is just unnatural, and Cordelia smells like the woods. So yeah, there's.
Here's the thing. I kind of like this part of it. What if the reason why Cordelia took the locket was because
Colin kind of being stalker.
got fixated and was stalking her?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, like that's, I've been thinking like forwards, but what if it's backwards? What if it's the cause and not the effect? Yeah,
That works.
You cool with that, Olivia?
Yep.
Cool.
That also totally reads like high school silliness, like that.
Yeah.
That loop of two people not knowing. Yeah.
They both have their pretenses and assumptions and will never mention them to each other.
Totally. At least not until the drama is high.
Right.
Okay, so I've got 2 strings on Cordelia, and everybody gets a string on me.
Yes.
Cool.
Because we all know about your dad. Because that's the family where we had the abusive couple.
Yep.
Till your mom disappeared.
Oh, that would be.
And then dad started being abusive to you instead. Maybe?
Maybe, in my head, like, as a child, he did not notice any. If there was any, he did not notice any, except for that his dad was hot-tempered sometimes. But now that she's gone, he's idealized his past. So,
Right.
you know, regardless, he wouldn't know it until a therapist helped him recover repressed memories if that was a thing.
Sure. But in a small town setting, when people think of the violent drunk, your dad kind of comes to mind.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Fucking Terry.
Is that his name, Terry?
Apparently, it's Terry.
I am noting that. Okay, that then takes us to Andy. And for the Fae, the first one is you wear your heart on your sleeve. Give everyone one string. So everybody has a string on Andy.
Wait, does that mean I have another string
Yes.
in addition?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think, I can't remember what it is offhand, but there is something special that happens if you gain 5 strings on somebody, I think. I'll have to double check on that.
Okay. I'll work toward that just to see.
Okay. Andy, you've captured someone's fancy. Gain 2 strings on them. So somebody has
I feel like this is one I need to workshop.
Yes, somebody rather fancies Andy. Who fancies Andy?
It'll be me. I mean, I've known him for a while. I've known Andy for a while. That's who I get my social cues from.
Right, you're already paying.
It's just kind of, it's like, well, okay, the TV shows and the books say that this is how I should feel, so that's what I'm going to do now.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, and you two are also the ones.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Oh, what was that? Oh, yes. The sincerest form of flattery, is that what you're saying, Joe?
Mm-hmm. Well, and that also kind of plays into like the giving strings to everybody to a degree, because at least on Frankie's front, if she's emulating me, that means she's never broken a promise to me. Or there to Andy. So, hence, like, the strings going multiple directions.
Sure. So, how many strings does Frankie now have over Andy? Like, you were collecting them, right?
That would be 3 at this point.
3. Okay.
Already.
All right. Okay, so that's the mechanical part of character creation. There is one more thing that I want to do. I don't think we're going to get to any scenes tonight. Partly, like I said at the beginning, it's been an exhausting couple of days, and this is mostly about just like, get over the initial anxiety, break the ice, get the thing started. But so the next thing is, and this part is kind of weird for me personally. It is because you guys are characters. Your characters are in high school. The standard issue is that we then put up a map of the homeroom class, and you guys decide where you sit, and then we make up some characters that sit around you. So kind of like make the NPCs of your homeroom class. It's weird for me insofar as my high school didn't have like something that was designated as homeroom class, so it's kind of a foreign thing for me. But
sure.
Did you guys have homeroom?
I did not.
Did not.
I was homeschooled, so the home was not really. They had a dining room table.
I did, and then I didn't. So I have had the experience.
Okay.
I was actually in
didn't
middle school that we had that, I
have-
think, not high school.
home.
What was that,
Say
Joe?
that again, Joe. I didn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying we didn't have homeroom exactly, but we did have a designated study hall that kind of had some overlap with the concept. I think.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, it's just a classroom with desks, right?
Well, the idea of a homeroom is that you have like at least one
It's
one
where you
class through
start
the
your day.
years with the same people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like the place where if anything needs to be told to you guys, or you bond more with them because you spend more time with them
Sure.
in that space than you do with your other classes.
But I'm just saying it's set up in the same way that any classroom is, right?
Yes.
The physical setup is,
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's more about the relationships because you would know these people more. So
Right.
that's why we would fill out the NPCs for all of them. But
Yeah. But I guess I'm just.
That sound accurate to your experience, Linda?
For the most part, it's you'd go to your homeroom first. That's the class, the group with which you would get announcements would be made, and it's been so long. Remember, I'm older. It was a long time ago.
So
God.
are they kind of like
yeah.
shorter than standard classes?
Yeah, it would be a shorter period that you would be in there because it wasn't really a full class. It was you'd come and gather there first. You'd get here's what's going on, anything special that's happening in the day. Sometimes if classes were if school was closing early for some reason, but they had planned it out in advance, you would go there at the end of the day before you would leave, so that they could say, here's whatever else you needed to know before you leave, and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And that would also be if an emergency takes place in the school in between classes, you would go to your homeroom class, or if they're having can't think of the word, where they make everybody come to the gymnasium to show their school spirit, which everybody always hated. Before you would go do that, you would go to homeroom first, and you would go from homeroom to that event, that sort of thing.
Okay. So yeah, the rules kind of presume that basic structure, and while I'm not very familiar with it personally, it kind of makes sense. And since this is kind of a small town Americana sort of arrangement, we're gonna roll with it. So let me pull this up. Joe, quick question. I know that your video is off. Are you watching the screen or just no visuals?
Intermittently. I've been watching the screen for the last 10 minutes, so I'm
Okay.
up now.
All right. I'm going to put up a map of the homeroom with these desks are elongated so that I can write names in them, but they're probably just standard desk sizes. And we will, well, first we should determine what, who, of the four of you, which is the most popular in school? Who's the popular kid?
Not me.
Are any of you popular?
No.
it can't be me because I'm a disaster.
Okay.
It also can't be Andy, given the weirdness of the recent.
Okay.
Even if they'd been popular before, they are not anymore because they've been withdrawn.
Sure. So it sounds like everybody else has taken a step back. So Cordelia is officially the most popular character in the party.
So I went with the option that was seductive and spooky. Like, the way I imagine her is that, like I don't know if I'd say she was, like, popular, but like I think she's not. Like I think people like. Like I think other
No,
people maybe
enemy.
like her more than she likes other people. I don't know. Like
Sure. Well, and by virtue of everybody else's self-description, being the most popular of these four
right.
says very little about where you are in the rest of the school's hierarchy.
Right. That makes sense.
Okay. So we will start with you in terms of seating. So let me see if I can.
That description sounds like the hot goth girl.
Morticia Adams.
Yes.
Yeah, Morticia
Big
Adams.
off girl.
Nice. Okay. So as the kind of spooky, seductive, more popular than the other losers, which seat do you take when you're sitting in homeroom? The front of the top of the map is the teacher's desk and the chalkboard and the door over on the side.
I'm gonna say she's in B4.
B4. So you're back of the room.
Yeah.
Are you the kind of person that just kind of is watching over everybody? Oh my god.
Right. Yeah, I would. Oh my.
Okay, give me a sec. It's doing a thing. Okay.
There it goes.
So Cordelia watches. Do you watch with aloofness or intense curiosity?
Probably leaning more towards aloofness.
Okay. And in seat C4 is somebody that wants your attention but rarely earns it. Who are they?
Oh,
You
this is just like a...
Make up a name.
Make up a name.
Abby.
Abby someone. Abby. Oh, come on. You know that, right?
No, what? I don't get it.
Okay. So what is it about Abby that makes her interested in you in a way that is not reciprocated? Like, does she just think that you're so cool with the witchy vibes, or?
Yeah. That's
She kind of like an occult wannabe, or?
Yeah. What?
She's a fan of The Craft. She loves that movie.
Right.
Oh, no.
Nothing annoyed me more in high school
Light as a
than
feather,
like
stiff
people
as a
that
board. Light as a feather, stiff as a board.
like
I was like, what the hell
thought
is
it was a game.
Right, exactly.
Okay. And somebody, again with Cordelia, somebody sits at B3 that you're more interested in them than they are in you. Who are they?
I don't know. Just another name?
Yeah, give me another name. And these are open to being workshopped, but I'm asking you because you're the person that's right next to
Um,
Now, does it have to be objectively true, or is that just what Cordelia thinks?
him. That's what Cordelia thinks. What's the kind of person that Cordelia would find interesting? Is this is there a jock that Cordelia does not want to admit is kind of cute? Or is there a bookworm that knows just everything?
Well, I kind of like that idea that maybe there's like a guy that she thinks is cute.
Okay. Give us a name.
Zachary.
Zachary. And I am just going with spellings. We can correct these later.
Sure.
So what about him is cute?
I don't know. His muscles? I don't know how that kind of stuff works. Sure, maybe he's like an athlete.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it can be deep or it doesn't have to be. Okay, who wants to pick their seat next? We've got the back row starting to fill out, so if any of you ostracized outsiders want to snag more fast seats, they're going fast.
Okay, well, he's not subtle, so A4.
A4?
Yeah. Because, he's following her.
Oh, God.
He's not subtle.
Okay. All right. Since it is starting to fill out a little bit more, I'm going to, rather than asking Colin about who's directly in front of him, I'm going to give Andy and Frankie a chance to choose their spots. Where are you guys?
I was thinking that Andy would be in D1 because in the absence of being able to be in the best corner, Andy will want to be nearest the exit.
Okay.
And Frankie sits right behind him. Andy. Yeah.
It's okay. Like I said, Andy does not care.
Okay. So let's see. Andy, who's sitting in C1?
John.
John? Okay.
And several names.
Let's see. With John, what does Andy think about John?
He's got a slight distaste for John. John is one of those people who does not pull his weight in group projects, and Andy views that as a broken promise type deal.
Gotcha. So, Frankie, what does Frankie like about John?
Oh, Frankie doesn't really like John because Andy doesn't like John.
Okay.
And the person to my left is Marcia, and she talks too fucking much.
Okay, let me try this again. So Marcia talks too much.
And I think Bobby behind me might be cheating off my papers when we have tests.
Ooh.
Oh, come on. I'm using a new program that's not as responsive as Photoshop, so
That's cool.
my stylus sometimes goes, no, we're not going to do anything. Screw you. So, Andy, I'd ask you what you think about Bobby, but I'm guessing you're not too fond on the cheating.
No.
Is there anything about...
Doesn't exist feeling Bobby, though. It was nice to him once.
Oh, so Bobby was nice to Andy?
Like, in a way of, like, could have fibbed and gotten out of trouble in middle school and didn't, and told the truth. And so he really doesn't like that Bobby's cheating on tests now, but
Okay.
A1 is Josephine.
What was
B1 is Karen.
I'm sorry, what was that?
A1 is Josephine, and B1 is Karen. And there's a Paul in here somewhere.
Can we put a hot bookish girl in A3?
Sure.
Perfect, thank you. I'm more interested in her than Zachary. I've just decided.
Just as long as one of these people's named Mitch.
Mitch is the one who sits in the other corner. Mitch sits in the back corner. Nobody
Have a
likes
stoner
Mitch. He's
yet?
outside.
There's gotta be
Yeah,
somebody.
Mitch.
Is Mitch the stoner?
Mitch is the stoner.
Definitely.
Okay, I'm writing this down as fast as I can. So the hot bookish girl is A3?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody give me a name.
Marianne.
Marianne?
Big City Club. Da, 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 da.
Okay. Now, earlier, Linda, you had said the A1 was Josephine. Who else was
Yep.
there?
B1 is Karen.
Okay.
And one of our 3 remaining desks is a Paul.
Why is the desk appalled, Linda?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I get you. We just need to.
So, and Linda, you had identified
And Mitch
something
Mark.
about Josephine and Karen. What was it that you had identified?
Karen is the teacher pleaser. She's teacher's pet. She's a Karen. She's a Karen. Always wants to speak to the manager. You know.
Okay.
Josephine's just a basic nice girl.
She's basic.
She's a nice girl. Nobody actively dislikes her as far as any of us can tell. But there's nothing super special about her other than she's semi-friendly to everyone.
Okay. Do we have a bully in the class?
Can Paul be the bully?
Paul can be the bully.
There we go.
Paul's the bully? Okay, where does Paul sit? Is he the kind of bully who sits at B2 or the kind of bully that sits at D4?
No,
Well,
Mitch
no,
is in
D4 is
D4.
Mitch.
Yeah.
What was that?
Mitch the stoner sits in the corner D4.
Okay. I did not get that
Paul
one.
sits behind Karen. Paul bully.
Paul Bully. Okay.
We need a more ethnic name in here.
And this can be played with a little bit. And we're gonna leave a couple of these desks open, and I might make the classroom a little bit bigger with some more seats to give us a little bit more room to wiggle later on. But
Transfer students, hell yeah!
Of course, of course. So, but this is loosely what we've got going on right now. I am starting to run out of steam, so I'm making a not as good of an effort at filling in some of the details for these characters. So we're gonna mostly leave with names and some of the basic ideas that you've described.
Sure.
So I think that's about as far as we're gonna get tonight. Is everybody okay with that?
Perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
We got pretty far.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
what was that, Linda?
Will you share the homeroom map to the messenger group too?
Yes.
Can you do that?
Yeah, I will do that after we get off.
Fabulous.
Fun. So normally I'm normally pretty big on getting into scenes as soon as possible. I don't like spending an entire session on character creation, but you know, here we are. So the one thing that I'll say though, we've put a lot of ideas on the board about who our characters are and how they relate to each other, about the city, and a little bit of an idea about who your fellow students are. I've said this before, I think, with every one of you in different games, but I'll go ahead and say it again. I usually think of these kinds of preparatory, these plans and these ideas as kind of the subconscious of the game. It's informed by the reality of the game, but sometimes it's a little bit off. So an idea that we put on the table today might play out differently than we expect it to once the dice hit the table. So as we go forward, kind of like you have ideas about your characters, feel free to flesh those out and to kind of develop them. But like the game suggests, keep it feral, keep it open, be prepared to let your character surprise you when it comes to actually trying them out. Okay?
Cool.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yay!
All right. And so by default, we will meet next Wednesday. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yep.
Sounds great.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
And I know that we didn't get to any scenes or anything, but like the way you kept this super organized and helped moving forward, like I really appreciate the way that you have not only structured this, but you have in a manner that's very efficient and quick without skipping over anybody's need for time or rushing anybody. You've done a great job in setting up this character creation, and I, for one, am super stoked to play this game. So I'm really excited.
I'm like,
awesome. Thank you.
I never enjoy character creation. This is fun, and I'm like excited to get into it.
Right, like that's been really cool. So
Yeah.
Well, and thank you all.
I've got the background for the other classmates going in the background.
Yeah. So
Joseph comes from a big family, you know.
If you, and again, you know, keep things feral, but if you have ideas, feel free to jot them down and shoot them over to me. I will take your ideas and my ideas and make some sort of weird hybrid out of them. So thank you guys for participating. Like was mentioned at the beginning of the session, I have not been running any games over the course of the pandemic, and so I've kind of figured that once I get back into it, it'll, like every time that I stop running games, when I get back into it, I'm able to get back on my feet before too long. So thank you guys for being willing to like get through some of that initial turbulence as we get going. All right.
I imagine today would have been a little smoother if we hadn't had the interruption here at my place, but
How it goes. All right. Well, thank you guys so much.
Night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.